Hello everyone and welcome back to the NatChat podcast. My name's Laura and today I am joined by my lovely co-host Jonathan.
Hi everybody.
As well as the wonderful team over at NICE, one of our partners and a 10 times Gartner Magic Quadrant contact centre as a service leader who are taking the world of AI-powered customer engagement by storm at the moment. So from NICE, we're joined by Gregg, Sales Engineering Director, and Luke, Digital Solutions Specialist. Welcome both and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
So
Laura.
today we're going to be taking a step back from seeing AI as solely a buzzword that's just been flying around at the moment. Instead, we're going to give you some real tangible expertise and guidance as to how your organisation can really harness its powers to deliver some exceptional CX in 2025. So with that being said, Jonathan, I'll hand the floor over to you to kick things off.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. First question towards you, Greg. Loads of excitement in the industry around AI and the benefits that can deliver. But I'm keen to understand, where do you see clients leveraging that AI technology, and what type of experiences are they delivering to their clients, and what benefits are they realizing?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jonathan. As Laura said at the beginning, a lot of buzz in the market around AI. But really, the benefits of AI need to be looked at as what are those business outcomes you're going to try to drive with AI. It's not just purely a technology discussion. And here at NICE, we believe that the future of customer experience lies in harnessing that power of AI and automation as well, and using that to transform your customer journeys. So what we're seeing out there in the market at the moment that customers are looking to do is obviously one of the main areas we look at AI is around self-service. But it's about using and providing that self-service in a much more user-friendly way. So it's about providing knowledge to customers at that point of interaction, providing them with the answers they require in a natural way, not just pointing them off to FAQ documents, but providing them in a conversational interface. And using that to drive better containment. So obviously what customers are looking at from the use of AI is to try to drive down costs. That's one element. And of course, that's where self-service comes in. And that's where we want to try to obviously provide the best customer journey that we possibly can within self-service. So we're seeing customers who have actually increased their containment. So everything being handled by an AI voice-enabled bot or a text-based bot, increase that containment by 63%. And that obviously will help them drive down their cost to serve. But it's not just about automation as well. It's also about driving efficiencies across the business. And certainly here at NICE, we're embedding that power of AI across the entire CX1 Empower platform. So we're providing a hyper-enabled, AI-enabled platform that can be used across the customer journey, not just at the first touch points, but also how do we help agents. So again, augmenting their skills, helping them improve the service they're providing to consumers, whilst driving up that efficiency. So that can relate to things like reduction in handle time. Again, seeing out there in the market with our customers, we're seeing up to 23% decrease in average handle time. But we're also seeing an increase in getting agents to proficient levels. One of the areas that obviously we constantly battle with in customer service and in contact centres in general is things like agent churn. And of course, the cost that incurs on a business to actually get new agents in and get them trained up. And again, that's where AI and Agent Assist, our co-pilot product sets, can help in bringing them to proficiency much more quickly than traditional training methods. So seeing that across there and from an agent and a customer perspective, but also applying AI to other business areas as well to help bring out insights, but actionable insights from the end-to-end customer journey. How can you use that to improve self-service, improve your agent engagements as well, and really drive that throughout the entire business?
That's wonderful. I actually had another question for you, Greg, if you don't mind.
Cool.
So you talked a little bit about CX1 Empower there. Obviously, there's a lot of CX innovators in the market right now that are making a lot of noise about AI. And what would you say that it is that really sets NICE apart in that competitive landscape? And how does NICE sort of approach delivering that unique value to its customers?
Sure, yeah. So again, you mentioned at the beginning, we're a 10 times Gartner Magic Quadrant CCAS leader. And one of the reasons why we are a leader there is our constant drive for innovation. So some of the things that we're doing with AI is it's not just about applying generic AI models to an existing platform, which a lot of our competitors are doing. We have over 20 years worth of experience around analytics and our own AI models. So we have the world's largest customer experience specific labeled data set. And that allows us to create our own AI foundational models, which we call Enlighten. And with these Enlighten models, we've got thousands of them. They're very much CX specific. They're also industry vertical specific as well. And we can bring those to bear on their own. But the real power starts to come in when we use that along with the generative AI capabilities that are now available in the market as well. So we're not just bringing Gen AI capabilities out, we're bringing our own intellectual property built up over that 20 plus years, so that we are really, again, making some AI technology which is specific to customer experience, not just generalized across the mark. Of course, what we're also looking at is, because we are a full platform, an end-to-end suite specifically for customer experience, we've got all the elements that you need. So one of the foundational elements of good AI and providing good service around AI is knowledge. So we have our own knowledge base, which can then be used to provide the answers back to consumers and agents alike. We also, again, the benefit of a unified suite is one of the things that powers AI is data. And we have a unified data lake, which all of the customer journey information goes into, and we can make use of that across the entire platform. So very, very different to point solutions or solutions which are just taking off the shelf large language models and generative AI capabilities. We're augmenting that with our own IP to provide something which is truly unique in the marketplace.
Yeah, great. So yeah, my next question, I guess, Luke, you're working with clients around realizing AI benefits on a day-to-day basis, but for the majority of customers that I talk to, it all seems a little bit daunting. So they're kind of down in the weeds of managing customer service and all of the challenges that go with that, and they hear about these AI benefits, and it just seems like such a massive step to take to be able to kind of get anywhere close to that. So how do you approach that? Is there best practice that people should follow? What advice could you give in terms of just getting started and developing that pathway to realize some of these benefits?
Yeah, so it's a great question, JC. And I think when we think about automating customer service journeys, predominantly we're going to be talking about conversational AI, virtual agents, chatbots. And since ChatGPT hit the headlines a couple of years ago, the conversation's really elevated in that space in terms of the art of the possible. I think historically, if you look at those organizations that have invested in virtual agents, they've ultimately ended up deploying a digital IVR in their messaging channels. So a series of options that customers click through, and that can feel very frustrating for the customers. And then from a voice perspective, I think we've all experienced that moment of, shouting down the phone, trying to make a speech-driven IVR understand some very simple phrases and individual words and get us to where we want to get to. And a big part of the reason why these organizations end up with those frustrating experiences is the effort that's required to build them out. And it's that's really driven our approach to how we go about creating great AI-driven virtual agent experiences. through our autopilot solution. So traditionally, if you look at the way bot programs have been run, you'll have a team of people brought together in a room, and they've got whiteboards and post-it notes, and they'll be putting up the top 10 contact reasons that are driving demand into their contact center today. And against each of those, they're coming up with those different ways that a customer may ask for that, ultimately what is an intent. And then maybe come up with 25 different utterances. And then they're mapping out with post-it notes what they think the optimal conversation experience looks like for each of those intents. That gets handed over to somebody to build out, and then ultimately the bot goes live, and the very first customer that interacts with that bot, they'll ask for that intent in a way that nobody's thought of in the workshop. The natural language understanding falls over and the bot fails. Now, well-run programs, they'd be picking up those utterances that have not been understood, training them back into the bot, and over the course of weeks and months, you end up with a bot that's okay at understanding what your customers are asking for. And that's the critical piece. That's where all the effort is, because if your bot can't understand what your customers are trying to achieve, it doesn't matter how good your conversational flows are after the point, because nobody's ever going to actually make it that far. Now, we know there's two types of need event from a customer. There are knowledge-driven needs events, such as, what's your returns policy, what types of savings account do you offer, so on and so forth. And then there are those transactional types of need event. What is my balance? I need to update my personal details, etc. And a great virtual experience, a virtual agent experience, needs to deliver against both of those types of needs event. So we approach those two types of need event in very different ways to help organizations stand this up quickly and effectively. And I'll start with knowledge. Knowledge is a critical foundation to having great generative driven experiences that give organizations the guardrails they need to ensure responses are accurate, true to their brand, and to avoid some of those pitfalls we've seen out there in the wild. We've been able to get bots to provide information about competitors, and we've all seen those horror stories out there. Now, here we're able to lean on our knowledge management solution that Gregg alluded to earlier, CX1 Expert. That's really designed around enabling the optimization of all of that knowledge content that exists across an organization, so you can ensure it's up to date, accurate, and performant with generative AI. We can also integrate with existing third-party knowledge management sources as well. Ultimately, what we do is we vectorize all of that information and use a large language model to identify the relevant chunks of knowledge that may be spread across multiple articles. And we formulate that into a conversational response for the customer, whilst ensuring that you don't end up with the drawbacks of a ChatGPT-like experience with hallucinations. So we use what's called a RAG method, a retrieval augmented generative method, to bring back only the approved knowledge content to answer those query types. Now, one of the great benefits of that approach for the knowledge use cases is if we come back to that traditional way that bots were built, you no longer need to work out all of the intents. If you've got 50 FAQs as an organization that you want to surface up through bot experiences, we no longer need to train each of those intents out. Here we're leveraging the capabilities of a large language model to understand the intent, identify the relevant knowledge, and bring it back in a conversational manner. So the speed to value there for an organization, all of that effort is taken away. It really comes back to the effort in the knowledge management side of things, which should exist anyway in any organization, and then elevating that into those conversational bot experiences, whether it's through voice or digital. And in my experience, you can get up to 20% containment with a really performant knowledge type use case in your bot. So that's the first angle we take with bringing these experiences together and helping organizations accelerate that time to value. Now, for the transactional types of use cases, we can also take away that heavy lift of building out those intent models. We will utilize one of our proprietary AI models that Gregg talked to, called EnlightenXO. And what we're able to do with EnlightenXO is actually ingest all of an organization's existing call recordings and chat transcripts and break those down into an intent map of exactly what is driving demand into that contact center. And we get really granular with it. So it's not just the level 1 intents, like they've contacted us about a booking, but going into the level 2 and level 3 intents. So you've got a real granular view of actually what's driving demand. That enables you to start road mapping where you focus your energies on building out those flows that are well suited to conversational AI and automated experiences. Now, against each of those intents, what we also have then is all of the actual customer utterances from those call recordings, from those transcripts that made up the intent. So we immediately have an intent model that instead of having 25 utterances that we've come up with in a workshop, you can have hundreds of different utterances, which ultimately gives you a much more accurate intent model. Straight away, off the bat, day one, over 90% accuracy is what our customers see. And we can ingest that directly into Enlighten Autopilot and stand that up immediately. That is saving weeks and months of that optimization effort to get to an okay performance in bots that organizations traditionally have seen. Now, the second thing that XO is doing is it's analyzing all of those intents and the actual conversations that take place against them, and it's looking for the best agent conversations for each intent based on the call outcomes, things like first contact resolution, CSAT, etc., taken into account. And then what we're able to do is provide that as a ready-to-go conversation flow. So what processes do the agents go through in those conversations? How does the conversation progress? What information is asked for, received, etc., and stand that up immediately in Autopilot as a ready-to-go conversational flow. So again, taking away that effort of actually mapping out what we think the best conversation looks like for those intents. By bringing those two together, you end up with a bot that can quickly identify a customer need. It can either serve up the correct knowledge to respond to that ask or carry out that process based on the best agent conversations. And we can do this across both voice and digital.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Luke. And you mentioned a little bit at the start there just about sort of the virtual agents, but I actually wanted to bring it back to the human agent and how AI can sort of enhance their productivity and their effectiveness and for other business users as well. What specific tools or innovations are really helping to drive those improvements for the physical agents and their supervisors?
Yeah, that's a great point, Laura. AI isn't just about the customer-facing experience, and we also support the agents when they're handling those contacts via our Agent Assist solution in Enlighten Copilot. So again, here we're leveraging generative AI capabilities in very specific ways. So similar to the knowledge experience with Autopilot, we're able to identify relevant knowledge as the conversation progresses in real time, whether that's digital or voice, and bring back relevant knowledge for the agent in Copilot that they can then be using. And that's content that's either customer facing that answers the customer's question directly, or it can be internal knowledge about a process that the agent needs to carry out for that particular ask, or a combination of both. So that's one of the ways that we're starting to drive those efficiencies and help agents deliver better experience. We're also summarizing that conversation as it happens in real time, which for digital agents is an absolute goal because they're handling multiple contacts at once. So as they're moving between those different conversations, they've always got that summary of what's taken place. So that avoids the frustration of either having to go back and review the entire transcript to remind myself where I was at in that conversation, or even worse, asking customers to repeat themselves. Another thing we're doing is we're analysing the conversation at each turn and giving sentiment guidance to the agent. So looking at what we think the sentiment is of the customer at that point in time. And we give them both a visual cue, but also insight and an explanation as to why we believe the sentiment is what it is. That helps agents make better decisions about the soft skills to utilise, such as showing empathy if a customer's showing frustration. And finally, we also solve for every agent's nightmare, which is that after call work, right? The writing up of notes after a contact has taken place. Or quite often, as we see when we're going and spending time sitting with agents in organisations' contact centres, taking notes as you're going through a conversation, which is even worse because you're no longer giving 100% focus and attention to the customer. You're trying to complete notes as you go. So once the contact concludes, what Copilot does is actually summarize that conversation that's taken place, and then the agent is able to review that, add to that if they need to do so, and that gives them the space to focus on that customer during the actual conversation. And ultimately, we're seeing up to a 66% saving of the after call work from the fact that we're taking care of that summarization immediately within Copilot itself. Now, that's for the agents, and that's where we are today. And there's a whole raft of innovation coming in place in Copilot for agents. But it's not just about the agents. We also support the supervisors with their very own Copilot. So here we're providing the supervisor with alerts based on parameters such as sentiment, agent activity, etc. But again, along with insights into those alerts, so that supervisors can be very deliberate about where they're focusing their attention so that they're helping drive better outcomes for their customers and their teams. Another activity that supervisors spend time on is reporting and analysis. Copilot for Supervisor allows them to tap into all of that data using natural language. So asking questions such as, who are my best performing agents today for average handle time and adherence, for example? And Copilot for Supervisors is then tapping into that data set, and it brings back a concise view of that information for the supervisor without them having to go into the reports, find them, filter down, combine different data variables. It's taking care of it immediately based on the natural language question that the supervisors ask. And all of that gives a supervisor back that valuable time for them to focus on the activities that add value for their organization, such as coaching their teams.
Yeah, interesting stuff. For me, one of the kind of standouts of the NICE platform is the sheer breadth of capability. So like we've touched on how we can support agents with AI through the agent desktop, how we can provide customers with automated experiences that leverage AI, which is all really exciting stuff. But I'm interested to know, with the breadth of the solution touching areas like quality management, workforce management, interaction analytics, knowledge management, you've got so much in there that I'm sure there must be AI developing in other areas. You mentioned Enlighten XO, which sounds brilliant in terms of analyzing interactions and applying automation in the areas that has the most impact. Supervisor AI, that sounds quite unique. I've not heard of anyone else doing anything like that. But are there any other areas that you're looking to leverage AI to enhance your solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can speak to another solution, Actions, and I think Gregg can absolutely add a number of other areas. But if we think about the beyond the supervisors, we've got the business users, and then wanting to understand how the business is performing, what's happening, what are the outcomes happening across all of that customer experience data. So again, with Enlighten Actions, that's where we open it up to the broader business, allowing them to tap into all of those different data sets across ACD, quality, interactions, analytics, etc. Ask those questions in a natural way, get those concise answers back with the data they need, including visualization. So if I'm going into a board meeting in an hour's time, I can tap straight into that data set, get the graphs I need, put them straight into my PowerPoint. So driving that speed to value there, which traditionally would have been conversations with data analysts that may have taken place over days or weeks. Very quickly now I can get the answers I need as a business user to make decisions far more quickly to drive performance for my organization. The other thing Actions is also doing is helping businesses identify those knowledge gaps based on the actual conversation. So back to knowledge being a real critical underpinning. And how do we accelerate that identification of knowledge gaps? Actions is able to surface that for the relevant users and then utilize generative AI to actually draft knowledge articles based on actual customer to agent conversations. So again, that just accelerates that optimization of knowledge as a foundational underpinning of all of the generative experiences in an organization.
Yeah, and to add some of the other things as well, as you say, Jonathan, a very wide portfolio in the platform, lots of capabilities. Already got AI embedded across in many areas like workforce management. When we look to do forecasting and scheduling, we're using AI and machine learning to identify the right forecasting method. We use different methods and we use AI to choose to best pick the best one. So there's things like that already embedded in. What we are also released in this current release, which are things around improving some of the accuracy around things like analytics, making use of those Enlighten models. So again, we released something called Ontology Studio, and that allows you to take those verticalized models and apply them to your business as well. So again, you can, straight out of the box, you can become a lot more specific to what's relevant in your industry. And it will track those intents and give you feedback of where those intents are being recognized within all of the data that you have within your particular organization, from all those voice recordings, chat transcripts, and so on. So those are things which, again, you can now not just take what's out of the box, but you can start to tailor that specifically to your business. And that not only impacts on interaction analytics, but also things like auto summary as well. So yes, auto summaries out there. There's a number of vendors out there with auto summary, but the advantage of our auto summaries, again, we have those industry specific vertical models that we can apply. So actually our summaries are much more accurate, much more in line with what customers are looking for, not just something that they've put through a Gen AI engine and got just a general summarization. And adding on top of that, and again, back to this personalization, we're bringing out the ability to re-engineer those prompts so you can get the output specifically to exactly what you want to see in your CRM systems and your back-end systems. We're building on some of the things that Luke mentioned about actions as well. So as we move forward, we're also bringing to market more capability around that. So Luke mentioned about auto building knowledge articles. What we're also going to allow you to do, again, through a conversational interface, not having to do this manually, being able to query things like the quality management performance and identify things like coaching lessons and other training materials, and ask the system to build that training material specifically for you. So you can then roll out to your agents. You've identified an area where perhaps quality has dipped, so you want to create a consumable piece of training. You can get the system to do that automatically and push it out and schedule it all to your agent population, all through that conversational interface. So it's really making things a lot easier to manage. Access to that data and getting the business insights out of that data is now something you can do with a single line prompt, rather than, if you can imagine, I know certainly from my experience, there are people, analysts within contact centers who are absolutely wizards on Excel, and they're taking data from multiple locations and trying to do that. There's no need for that anymore. You can just do this using the power of AI and that unified data lake that we have across the platform. So lots of really exciting things coming. And again, you know, we continue to innovate, we continue to invest our money back into this R&D development. We're investing over $370 million this year back into improvements onto the CX platform. And CX1 Empower, last year we brought out over 6,000 new features and functionalities. And again, we continue to reinvest that cash, reinvest that time and effort back into the platform. And you'll see a lot more of this coming out to the market over the next 12 months or so.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Greg. It's always good to get a little bit of insight as to what's to come. But I'd say that's a wrap from us today. So a massive thank you to Greg and to Luke for some amazing insights there. And as always, thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. If you'd like to know any more about the Natiliq and NICE partnership, then do head over to the Natiliq website and click on our partner page so you can find out everything you need to know. Or if you're watching the video version right now on YouTube, then just head over to that description below and you'll find all of the links you could ever need. Yes. Thank you so much, Greg, Luke, and Jonathan, for joining us today. And thank you to the audience as well. Make sure to tune in for the next episode.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, JC.
Thank you.